I never imagined my perfect life would shatter so completely. Standing in front of my vanity mirror, I adjusted my designer dress and practiced my brightest smile. That smile had earned me over 2 million followers on Instagram. That smile had landed me countless brand deals and speaking engagements. That smile had caught Mike Anderson's attention 5 years ago. And that smile was now just another mask I wore to hide the emptiness inside. I am Jennifer Anderson, though everyone calls me Jen. Social media influencer, event planner extraordinaire, and wife to one of Seattle's most successful construction company owners. My life looked perfect on the surface, the kind that made other women comment with heart eye emojis and couple goals. But perfection, I was learning, could be suffocating. Mike was everything a woman should want: stable, hardworking, devoted. He built us a beautiful home in an exclusive neighborhood, supported my career, and never complained about my expensive tastes. He was also predictable, routine-oriented, and sometimes painfully practical. While I craved excitement and spontaneity, Mike preferred quiet evenings at home. When I wanted to travel the world, he worried about project deadlines. Our differences once seemed complementary, but lately, they felt like chains. That's when Blake Sterling walked into my life. I met him at a charity gala I was organizing, tall, impossibly handsome, with the kind of confidence that commanded attention. He was everything Mike wasn't: spontaneous, passionate, dangerous. When Blake looked at me, I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. Not as at Jen Anderson style with her perfect feed and curated life. Not as Mike Anderson's wife. Just as Jen, the woman who still dreamed of adventure and passion. Our first conversation lasted hours, hidden away in a quiet corner of the ballroom. He understood my restlessness, my desire for more than just stability. "You're too vibrant to be caged," he whispered, his fingers brushing mine as he handed me a glass of champagne. I should have walked away then. Should have deleted his number when he texted the next day. Should have blocked him when he started sending flowers to my office. But I didn't. Instead, I found myself making excuses to see him. Lunch meetings turned into afternoon drinks. Professional consultations became intimate conversations. Each time I told myself it was innocent, just friendship. Even as his touch lingered longer than necessary. Even as my heart raced whenever my phone lit up with his messages. Even as I began to dress differently, hoping to catch his eye. Mike noticed nothing, too absorbed in his latest construction project. Or maybe he did notice but chose to trust me completely. His trust made everything worse. Blake's pursuit was relentless, intoxicating. He sent me poetry at midnight, describing my beauty in ways that made me blush. He remembered every detail I shared, every dream I'd abandoned. When I mentioned missing dance classes, he arranged private lessons. When I spoke of wanting to see Paris, he showed me pictures of his villa in the south of France. "Life is too short for regrets," he would say, his dark eyes holding promises of everything I thought I was missing. The first kiss happened on a rainy Tuesday. I had just finished a meeting with potential sponsors when Blake appeared at my office. "I was in the neighborhood," he said, that crooked smile making my knees weak. He brought coffee, my exact order, remembered from a casual mention weeks ago. As thunder rolled outside, he moved closer. "You deserve to feel alive, Jennifer." His lips met mine before I could respond. I should have pushed him away. Instead, I kissed him back. That kiss changed everything. Suddenly, my carefully curated life felt like a prison. Every moment with Mike highlighted what I thought I was missing with Blake. Mike's gentle good morning kisses paled against memories of Blake's passion. His practical discussions about retirement plans made me long for Blake's wild dreams of adventure. The affair began slowly, carefully. Stolen moments between meetings. Quick encounters in hidden places. Each time, I promised myself it would be the last. Each time, I went back for more. Blake made me feel young, desired, alive. He took me to exclusive restaurants where no one knew me as Mike's wife. We danced until dawn in private clubs. He bought me jewelry that I could never wear home. "You're wasted on him," Blake would whisper against my skin. "Run away with me. I'll show you the world." Part of me wanted to believe him. Wanted to throw away everything for the promise of passion and adventure. But another part remembered Mike's unwavering love. His quiet strength. The life we'd built together. I lived in this limbo for months, torn between duty and desire. Between the safety of my marriage and the thrill of the forbidden. My Instagram feed became a carefully crafted lie. Pictures of date nights with Mike captioned with #blessed. Behind-the-scenes shots of events where Blake lurked just out of frame. My followers ate it up, never suspecting the chaos beneath the perfect surface. Sarah, my sister, was the only one who seemed to see through the facade. "You're different lately," she said during our weekly coffee date. "Distracted. Restless. Is everything okay with Mike?" I brushed off her concerns with practiced ease. Blamed stress and work pressure. But her nurse's intuition saw more than I wanted to reveal. The guilt ate at me in quiet moments. When Mike brought me coffee in bed, just the way I liked it. When he proudly showed off my latest sponsored post to his construction crew. When he held me at night, completely trusting. Blake sensed my turmoil and intensified his pursuit. "He'll never understand you like I do," he insisted. "You're living half a life, Jennifer. I can give you very thing." His words echoed in my mind during silent dinners with Mike. During charity events where I played the perfect wife. During sleepless nights when the weight of my choices crushed my chest. Then came the day that changed everything. Mike was supposed to be in Portland for 3 days, overseeing a new project. Blake had been pushing to come to our house, knowing it was my ultimate line in the sand. "Let me make love to you in your bed," he whispered during our last encounter. "Let me show you what real passion feels like." I refused at first, clinging to this last boundary. But his persistence wore me down, like waves eroding a cliff. That fateful morning, I let him in. Into my house. Into my bedroom. Into the sanctuary of my marriage. Blake had just stepped out of our shower when I heard the front door open. My heart stopped. I knew those footsteps. Knew the sound of those keys hitting the counter. Mike was home. Everything after that moment became a blur of chaos and consequences. The look of betrayal in Mike's eyes as he found Blake in our bedroom. The sound of splintering wood as Mike threw Blake into our closet. My pathetic attempts to explain the unexplainable. In those few devastating minutes, my carefully constructed world began to crumble. My marriage. My reputation. My perfectly curated life. All shattered by the choices I'd made. As Blake fled our house in humiliation, I faced the ruins of my life. The devastation I'd brought upon myself. And the realization that I'd destroyed the one thing I never thought I'd lose. Mike's love. His trust. His respect. Standing in our bedroom, watching him walk away, I finally understood the true cost of my actions. No filter could fix this. No carefully worded caption could make it right. I had everything, and I threw it away for an illusion of passion. For a man who, I would soon learn, had done this many times before. The real nightmare was just beginning. And I had no one to blame but myself. The aftermath was brutal and immediate. My phone exploded with notifications as the story spread through Seattle's social circles. Someone had filmed Blake's hasty exit from our house, half-dressed and stumbling. The video went viral within hours. My perfectly curated Instagram feed became a battlefield of angry comments and unfollows. Brands began quietly dropping their partnerships. Event planning clients canceled contracts. The empire I built on perfection was crumbling. Mike didn't come home that night. Or the next. Or the one after that. My calls went straight to voicemail. My texts remained unread. Sarah was the first to confront me directly. She arrived at our house, no longer my home, really, with fury in her eyes. "How could you?" she demanded, her nurse's composure cracking. "Mike worshipped the ground you walked on." I had no answer that didn't sound hollow. No explanation that didn't reveal my own selfishness. Ake disappeared completely. His passionate declarations of love vanished with my social media following. His promises of adventure evaporated like morning mist. My attempts to reach him were met with silence. Later, I would learn this was his pattern. I wasn't special. I wasn't unique. I was just another conquest in his game of destruction. The truth about Blake Sterling began to emerge like a monster from the depths. Other women came forward with similar stories. Married women he'd seduced and abandoned. Lives he'd destroyed for sport. Detective Lisa Morgan contacted me for a statement. She was investigating Blake for fraud and blackmail. "You're not his first victim," she said, though victim felt too kind a word for what I was. I learned he had a system. Target successful couples. Seduce the wife. Destroy the marriage. Sometimes blackmail followed. Sometimes financial fraud. Always devastation. I was lucky, Detective Morgan said. Mike's early return had exposed Blake before he could implement his full plan. But that knowledge brought no comfort. I'd still chosen to betray my husband. Still decided to risk everything for a lie. The worst part was facing Mike's friends. Steve Martinez, his best friend, came to collect some of Mike's things. His normally friendly face was a mask of cold disappointment. "He loved you more than anything," Steve said, loading boxes into his truck. "You were his whole world." Past tense. Everything about Mike was becoming past tense. My sister Sarah stopped speaking to me. She'd always been close to Mike, admired him. Now she couldn't even look at me. My parents were devastated. They'd loved Mike like a son. "We raised you better than this," my mother said during one of her rare calls. She was right. They had raised me better. I started therapy, trying to understand why I'd destroyed my life. Dr. Wilson helped me see the patterns. My need for constant validation. The addiction to attention and excitement. The way I'd confused love with passion. "You had a good man," she said during one session. "But you wanted a thrill ride." Social media became unbearable. Every post about Blake's other victims felt like a knife in my gut. Every happy couple photo reminded me of what I'd lost. I deactivated my accounts. Closed my event planning business. Retreated from the world I'd once commanded. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. Mike's lawyer was thorough and fair, but firm. I would get what was legally required, nothing more. The house would be sold. Our assets divided. our life together erased. I signed without arguing. It was the least I could do. The only gift I could give him now, an easy exit. Through mutual friends, I heard Mike was healing. Steve had taken him in during those first difficult weeks. He threw himself into his work. His construction company was thriving. He was seeing a therapist. Moving forward. While I remained frozen in my shame. Detective Morgan kept me updated on Blake's case. The evidence against him was mounting. Bank fraud. Investment scams. Blackmail schemes. My affair was just one thread in a tapestry of destruction. Other women testified about his manipulation. His promises of love and adventure. His sudden disappearance when he got what he wanted. I was asked to testify too. To help build the case against him. It was the least I could do. The courtroom was packed the day I took the stand. I saw Mike there, sitting with Steve. He looked different. Stronger somehow. More resolved. I told my story without embellishment. About meeting Blake at the gala. His persistent pursuit. My willing participation in my own destruction. Blake sat at the defense table, still handsome. Still confident. But his charm felt hollow now. Poisonous. I could finally see him clearly. A predator. A destroyer of lives. Including my own. But I had been a willing participant. Had chosen to take the bait. Had decided to risk everything for an illusion. The media covered the trial extensively. Social media influencer caught in web of deception. Real estate mogul's empire built on broken marriages. Seattle's perfect couple, a story of betrayal. Each headline was another reminder of my foolishness. My apartment felt like a prison. Small and dark compared to the home I'd shared with Mike. But it was what I deserved. A place to rebuild from the ashes of my choices. I found a job at a small marketing firm. No more influencer status. No more luxury brand partnerships. Just honest work for modest pay. Some nights I drove past our old house. Saw the sold sign go up. Watched new owners move in. Witnessed my old life being packed away. Sarah finally agreed to meet for coffee. "I don't forgive you," she said bluntly. "But you're still my sister." It was more than I deserved. More than I could have hoped for. The trial concluded with Blake's conviction. 15 years for fraud and other charges. No possibility of parole for at least 10. Justice, they called it. But it couldn't undo what was done. Couldn't rebuild what was broken. I watched Mike leave the courthouse that day. He wasn't alone. A woman was with him, pretty, natural, kind-looking. Emily, I later learned. A bookstore owner. Someone real. Someone true. Someone worthy of his love. I turned away before they saw me. Walked back to my small apartment. Faced another night with my choices. And the knowledge that I had no one to blame but myself. Time passes differently when you're rebuilding a life from scratch. Days blur together in a haze of regret and small steps forward. Therapy became my anchor in the storm of consequences. Dr. Wilson helped me understand my destructive patterns. "You've spent your life performing for others," she said. "When was the last time you were truly yourself?" I couldn't remember. The perfectly filtered photos. The carefully crafted captions. The constant need for validation. All of it had been a performance. Even my marriage to Mike had become part of the show. Hashtag couple goals. Hashtag blessed life. Hashtag perfect marriage. All lies I told myself and others. I started journaling, pouring out raw truths instead of Instagram captions. Writing about the girl who grew up always needing to be the center of attention. The woman who confused admiration with love. The wife who threw away authentic happiness for artificial excitement. Sarah's forgiveness came slowly, in small gestures. A text checking if I was okay. An invitation to Sunday brunch. A hug that lasted a little longer than necessary. "You're still my sister," she would say. "Even when you're an idiot." My parents struggled more with reconciliation. "We just don't understand," my mother would say. "You had everything." She was right. I did have everything. And I'd traded it all for an illusion. News about Mike came through mutual friends. His construction company was expanding. He'd won a major contract downtown. He was dating Emily Parker, the bookstore owner. Each update was a bittersweet reminder of what I'd lost. I saw them once, accidentally, at a coffee shop. Mike looked happy, relaxed. Emily was showing him something in a book, both of them laughing. It was the kind of simple, genuine moment I'd taken for granted. I left before they noticed me. Went home and cried for hours. Not because Mike had moved on, but because I finally understood what real love looked like. And how badly I'd broken it. The trial transcripts became public record. Blake's other victims reached out to me. We formed an unlikely support group. Women who had fallen for the same lies. Lost the same dreams. Learned the same painful lessons. Claire, his first known victim, became a close friend. "He made us all feel special," she said during one of our meetings. That was his greatest trick. We helped each other heal. Shared our stories. Supported each other through the dark days. Found strength in our shared experience. Detective Morgan kept me updated on Blake's prison sentence. He wasn't doing well behind bars. His charm meant nothing there. His wealth couldn't buy him comfort. I felt no satisfaction in his suffering. Only sadness for all the lives he'd damaged. Including his own. Slowly, very slowly, I began to rebuild. Found a small house in a quiet neighborhood. Started a modest event planning business, focusing on local clients. No more social media presence. No more perfectly curated image. Just honest work and genuine connections. My first client was a young couple planning their wedding. They knew about my past, everyone did. But they chose to trust me anyway. "Everyone deserves a second chance," the bride said. I worked harder for them than I'd ever worked before. Determined to honor their trust. To prove I could create something beautiful without Dester. Owing it. Sarah attended the wedding with me. Watched as months of careful planning came together. "You're different now," she observed. "More real." She was right. I was different. The mask had cracked and fallen away. Leaving just me. Imperfect. Flawed. But finally authentic. 1 year after the divorce, I wrote Mike a letter. Not asking for forgiveness. Not hoping for reconciliation. Just expressing genuine remorse. Acknowledging the pain I've caused. Wishing him happiness with Emily. He never responded. I hadn't expected him to. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some trust can't be restored. But writing the letter helped me move forward. My new life was smaller than my old one. Quieter. less glamorous. But it was real. Every friendship earned through honesty. Every success achieved through hard work. Every moment lived without pretense. Dr. Wilson says healing isn't linear. Some days I still wake up reaching for my phone to post the perfect morning selfie. Some nights I still cry over old photos of Mike and me. Some moments I still battle the urge to perform rather than just be. But I'm learning, growing, changing. The support group for Blake's victims continues to meet. We've become more than survivors of his manipulation. We're friends, sisters in healing, teachers for each other. Last week, I saw Mike and Emily at a restaurant. She was wearing an engagement ring. They looked blissfully happy. This time, I didn't run away. I smiled genuinely, nodded in acknowledgement. Mike nodded back. A small gesture. But enough. I went home to my quiet house. Fed my cat. Worked on plans for an upcoming event. And felt, for the first time in a long while, at peace. Not with what I'd done. Never with that. But with who I was becoming. Someone who had fallen. Failed. Lost everything. But who was finally learning to live authentically. Without filters. Without performance. Without masks. Just me. Jennifer Anderson. Starting over. One real moment at a time. End.